and welcome to the Planning Board meeting for Monday, January 3rd, 2011. Tonight, we do have one public hearing. Prior to that, on the agenda, we have the acceptance of the minutes of November 15th and December 6th. We'll take those individually, starting with the November 5th minutes. Any of the board members have any corrections? If not, I have one on page 7 on the last matter, which was the Bristol Street. There was a motion made and second recommend approval, and then it goes on to the motion to recommend denial, passed unanimously 4-0. So I think that should be to approve 4-0. You see that? Any other board members? It took a motion to approve, and then I think it was a typo to recommend denial.
Yeah.
So that's the only correction I have. Any other board members have any corrections in regards to November 15th?
I have none. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of November 15th, 2010,
As amended?
Second.
as amended.
Okay, thank you. Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes yes, those are adopted. Moving along to December 6th. I just have corrections, which was similar to the last one. Looks like on page 6, on the ZBA notices, on the bottom, on the application for Denbar Ave, we had a motion made for denial, and then on the bottom it said the motion to recommend was approved, and that was a vote 2-0 with 2 people abstained. So I think that should be to denial instead of approval. And also on page 7, we had the same thing on Epping Street, where it said the motion was to deny, and the motion to recommend said approve. That should be deny. Besides that, those are the only 2 corrections I have. Any other board members have any corrections?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend approval with the recommended revisions.
Motion made and second? Second, we have a second? Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, those matters, motions to recommend approval for December 6th have been approved. Those minutes have been approved. Moving along, we do have a public hearing. This is a definitive subdivision. This was continued from our last meeting in December. This is for definitive subdivision at 61 Bishop Street, also known as Berkeley Ave Extension. A public hearing will be held for a definitive subdivision application to subdivide a 35,072 square foot property located at Bishop Street at the intersection of Berkeley Ave. The proposal includes 3 new residential lots totaling 21,789 square feet with access from a 371-foot extension off Berkeley Ave. The property is located in the traditional single-family zoning district. May we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Good evening, members of the board. George Theolides, Jr., 133 Market Street, Lowell. And I'm here this evening on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Scaff. And with me is Ron Close, his engineer as well. First of all, Happy New Year to the board and everybody out in La La Land or whatever. Fight Land, I guess I should say. That's the talk of the town these days. But anyway, we don't have anything to hold up Mr. Scaff's plans, but he's willing to hold them up by the TV screen or whatever. We were missing an easel that we could get, but he also has, this is the latest iteration, and I guess let me go back and and give you a little history. I think you'll probably recall we came here a couple of months ago with a preliminary plan, and there were a lot of good ideas thrown around of how we could modify the plan and make it a better look for the neighborhood and for the city. And I think it's fair to say that we've made a lot of adjustments to do that. In addition to that, obviously, after we made our submittal, all of these matters were taken up by all of the various city agencies that get involved in these things. My client and his engineer have worked diligently to deal with those people in terms of suggested changes. As a result of our consultations with the city engineer and with the DPD folks, we decided to establish a homeowners association so that the owners of the properties, by the way, I should have mentioned, just to clarify it, we're talking about building 3 new homes. They'll all be in the 2,000 to 2,200 square foot range. They will probably be garrisons, but we're not totally sure of that yet. They're, as I said, 3 bedrooms, so they're not going to be extra large. There shouldn't be any extremely large families in any of them. Back to the plan, what obviously we're going to do is extend Berkeley Avenue with a new street. And if you recall, when we talked about this the last time, we were going to build a much wider street, and it was figured that wouldn't it be nicer and better if we didn't make as wide a streets, and since it only was going to serve 3 houses, and in its place put in a nice sidewalk, some granite curbing, and some landscaping with it. And that's exactly what we've done and we've put on the plan. In addition to that, we've made a diligent effort to try to save as many trees as possible in the location, and if you'll see by the plan, I think there are only 11 large trees coming out of the whole site, which is darn good, I think, and we'll be replacing them with at least 7, which also show on the plan. In addition to that, I mentioned the homeowners association and trust. We've also made provision for a stormwater maintenance plan, runoff plan, maintenance plan, which has again also been reviewed departmentally here in the city. We made some changes there. There's no more runoff of the cul-de-sac anymore. The engineer is satisfied that the plan as it's currently constituted can handle the 500-year water calculation that has been made. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I'm sure I know you all got a report from DPD. I should also mention, and I know there are a number of neighbors here this evening, my client has made a number of efforts to reach out to the neighbors to tell them that he has the plans, that they can look at the plans, that they can meet with them, that he'd like to show them to them anytime. One of those neighbors did, and I don't know, Bob, I think is his name, and I'm not sure, I don't think he's here tonight. My client has had a dialogue going back and forth, answering questions that he had, and I think it's fair to say, maybe not exactly complete to what he might have wanted or liked. As you all know, everybody has a strong feeling about what things should be done, but just to give you an idea of some of the things that were, some of the issues that were raised with that particular individual were things like what the plans would be for construction, traffic, for items like trucks and how they would be dealing with the location, et cetera. And I think one of the principal things that we pointed out to the gentleman was that we're talking about 3 houses here. This is not a 30-house development where we're going to be running trucks and materials and supplies in all day long and for months at a time. Basically, we're talking about 3 separate houses, and aside from clearing the lot and putting the foundations in, the likelihood is they'll be built one at a time. And if that's the case, we probably won't have more than 2 or 3 subcontractors on at any given time. And as I indicated in response, or my client indicated in response to the gentleman's questions, obviously he's going to monitor that situation. He's going to, with regard to any carpenters, electricians, et cetera, or certainly anyone involved with the building, he's going to try to get them to share cars. And so that there are not, I just can't imagine that on a regular basis there's going to be more than 1 or 2 cars there. My client has indicated that he will be monitoring any of the dirt and any of the problems with any trucking that might take place on the way to, in the initial stages, and make sure the street remains clean, et cetera. So we've endeavored to the extent that we can with at least one of the neighbors who's had gone and seen fit to talk with us. We've tried to get everything straight there. So, lastly, there were a couple of other items on the laundry list that I've been talking with Mr. Clausen and Mr. Genowitz about, and I just want to point out with regard to the most recent memo, we didn't quite complete the stormwater calculations for tonight, but needless to say, we're certainly agreeable to that being a condition before anything else goes forward. And with reference to the issue of the paper street, the so-called issue of the paper street, it's my opinion and a number of title examiners whose opinion I rely on, I haven't gone to a title company yet, but I will do this if necessary, that there is not any permission needed from the city in this particular item, but if it's necessary, we certainly would make it subject to an approval of the city if that's required. I don't think it's necessary, but if the law complies, we're going to comply with the law. And finally, there was one other item I wanted to speak to. Oh, and of course, we'll go to the Conservation Commission. We'd already been to the Conservation Commission once on this, and their answer basically initially was, go see the planning board first and see what they have to say, and then come back and see us, and that's why we did it this way. So, Mr. Scaff and I are here, and Mr. Close, and at the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, we're ready to answer any questions the board might have.
The only question I would have is, since the last meeting, when we had the continuance in December, we received a recommendation from the city engineer to deny the project.
To deny?
To deny this project. That was the recommendation we received on November 12th, 2010.
Oh,
And that was because of the stormwater runoff from the project site. And it talked about the floodplain, the stormwater report, and other information that had to be submitted to her office.
right.
I did speak with our associate planner today, asked if those plans have been delivered, and I've been informed they came in as recently as last week, and she has not given us any further comments to those plans to date. So the only thing that we have in writing now from the city engineer is requesting that we deny this. So can you give us an update on what was submitted to the city engineer? Because as of now, we have no further report from the city engineer.
I understand that, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately for my client and the board, I guess I can say, the city engineer was not available during the holidays to do a final plan. I think both Mr. Clausen and Mr. Genowitz can confirm to you that my client has been meeting regularly with the city engineer, and that it's our opinion that we have now reached a situation where she is satisfied with what we've submitted.
Okay, let me just reach out to Plan Development. Aaron, have you had any communication with her, or will there be any report in writing coming forth to us?
Not since the updated plan was submitted for the city engineer's review, but both of us were out last week, so I'm sure she's going to be reviewing and providing an updated set of recommendations or comments based on the plan. So we haven't had a chance to formally meet, though, internally on them.
So what I would recommend that we do is go forward with the public hearing tonight, and I'm sure myself and other board members would love to see her report back to us in writing.
Sure.
So I know there's people here from the neighborhood, and I know they've been here, some people have been here in their last meeting. I know it's not fair to them to ask them to come back, so if we could do a presentation. Obviously, I'm only one vote on the board, but obviously, as you know, it's not too often that we get recommendations from a city engineer, which talks about the floodplain, the stormwater report, and if you've submitted a lot of those and made the changes, we can listen to everything you have to say.
That's great.
I believe I know the matter was filed, and I know we have to act within a certain time period, but I think once we open the public hearing and continue it, that will suffice to cover the time requirement that if we don't act within 90 days, we have to ask for you to sign something to let us do that. But since everybody's here, that'd be my suggestion, but obviously that's up to the
We're
board.
certainly willing.
And obviously, I'm sure you'd want to see the report.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure the other board members would like to, and I know among the holiday restraints, it's tough for
I
all the
have-
parties together to review things, but we have some strong recommendations. I just want to let you know, we haven't received anything up to date, so I'll let you know that before we start picking at it.
I'm with you 100%, Mr. Chairman. I already told Mr. Clausen that, and we understand that.
Okay.
I want to make it clear that we were not dilatory. We've been waiting for that final word
I
ourselves.
understand that, around the holiday season, people try to spend time with their families and stuff, and a lot of times it's, and due to the nature of some of the stormwater stuff, it's a complicated issue. It's not as easy as some of the other issues that engineering has to look at.
Right. And we're certainly willing to sign any extensions that are required to be extended, so there's no issues there.
All right, thank you. So saying that, I'll let you proceed whichever way you want to go. If you want, anybody else want to go over the plan by plan, or whichever way you want to proceed, that's fine.
Well, I'll leave it up to you. I mean, I think, I don't know if you want to ask Mr. Close any questions?
I mean-
Or do you want to wait till after you hear from the...
Maybe if you could just give us a general review to the project. I know last time you came in, we had comments regards to what type of curbing, whether there's going to be sidewalks, what type of, whether there's going to be a cul-de-sac or a hammerhead at the end. So if you just go over general review, obviously, for all the people watching, the public here would get a good feeling of what the presentation would be and what the site proposal would look like if approved.
Mr. Close will give you a little more.
Okay, thank you.
For the record, my name is Ron Close. I'm a registered professional engineer in Massachusetts. This project was brought before me maybe about 2 to 3 months ago, at which time we proceeded forward with specific design. That is, getting into the details of it. We had conducted some earlier tests for groundwater elevations and soils evaluations. From that, we put together a plan where we would be 2 feet above the water table with an underground detention area. As it was directed by the city engineer, we were not to put anything in the roadway for above-ground detention areas. That would be Commonwealth Ave, which is a paper street. It's at the furthest extension of Berkeley. So with that in mind, and the mandates from the federal government and the state government on how to proceed with these designs, we put together a plan showing an underground detention area which incorporated piping and stone with 2 sedimentation basins at each end of the structure to assure that no oils and or other hazardous materials would get into that groundwater. We did have at one time an overflow runoff, which is standard procedure in most towns. The city engineer does not like the idea of anything flowing forward towards the floodplain. So we eliminated that pipe. Calculations were presented to the engineering department and DPD, which assures that all water would stay within that system and would infiltrate into the ground at its own rate, which is what we determined it to be, in addition to putting sand underneath, sand that would be assure a 2-minute runoff. So with that in mind, what I'm saying is we're containing all the water on site. This is not a big site, so the system shows, the calculations show that all water would be contained within the system and eventually infiltrate into the ground. And that's for the 100-year storm, which is the design factor I used for these streets. Actually, the actual street piping can be designed at 25-year, but the underground storage area has to be a 100-year storm. So we just proceeded forward and designed the whole thing based on that 100-year storm. So what I'm saying to you, it's probably overkill in the size of the system, but we felt that this system would be a better way to go. I did have a meeting with the engineering department following the letter that she generated approximately, I think it was a month ago. So a week or 2 after that, we had a meeting, sat down, and went over these issues. And I specifically pointed out the critical parts of the design, which are the peak elevations, the storage factors, etc. So she is aware of what we're trying to do here technically. Like I said, she indicated to me that she did not allow overflow pipes into the abutting runoff area. And we did not redirect any water, by the way. This would have all been directed to an area that it had flowed into overland prior to any construction, which is another standard operating procedure. You cannot really change the course of the runoffs. Other than that, we did reduce the size of the street as recommended. I believe it's 20 feet of paving now. Right, we cut it down from 24 to 20 feet, again, meaning less runoff, which is the issue. 300 feet, 4 feet wide, less pavement, less runoff. With that, I'd address any other questions that the board would like to ask me.
Thank you.
My client indicates to me that I was talking about stormwater calculations, when in fact it was the buoyancy calculation is the only thing that we're missing. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
I'm glad he's here to correct me.
I'll address the buoyancy, too. I did do the buoyancy calculations, just have not submitted them to the engineering. That was an item I had to check with Shea Concrete, which is the recommended structure that we have on our plan, or equal, but we checked with them mainly because I had to find out the weight of the structure, and then with that in mind, water table, buoyancy effect pushing upward. The figures would be 8,000 plus or minus pushing upward. The structure weighs 25,000, so we have no problem with the holding that structure in place. So they are calculated. I just have to put them on paper and get them into the office.
Could you just explain for the people who are watching where the extension of the road would go and how the road's going to come in and where the houses will be located, as well as the frontage of the houses on the new proposed road, if you could?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Currently, the extension of Berkeley Street would begin at the intersection of Berkeley and Bishop and proceed in a westerly direction towards Commonwealth, I believe it's Commonwealth, I'm sorry, Commercial Street, which is a 40-foot paper street. It abuts the railroad tracks, I believe, in that area. So it would be approximately 300 feet of roadway that would be extended towards the westerly extension of Berkeley. This area is located south of Boylston, and like I said, it abuts the railroad and the commercial street area. South of it is the city of Lowell property, which is a runoff area, an extensive swamp area and containment area. There is an existing house at the corner of Bishop and Berkeley, the proposed extension of Berkeley Street and Bishop. There is a one-story wooden dwelling, 10,000 square foot lot would remain with that dwelling. Each of the adjoining lots, which would, in actuality, 3 new structures would be built. Even though it's a 4-lot subdivision, 10,000 stays with the existing house. Those are 7,000 square feet plus, which is within the zoning regulations for that TSF area. Any further questions?
So I think it's going to be a cul-de-sac with the granite curbing proposed?
Again, sir?
There'll be proposed granite curbing, I see on the plan, correct?
That's correct. Yes, it will be a cul-de-sac. It is throated down a bit because of the 20-foot pavement that was recommended by engineering, and I think DPD had a voice in that. So we did cut down on the, and I think Conservation was thrilled that we were able to cut down on some of that runoff. But anyways, that cul-de-sac is throated down a bit to meet, to tie into the 20-foot wide. 20 foot is not a standard, so.
Okay. Did any of the board members have any questions of Mr. Close before we go any further? I'm just thinking while he's up here now, or if we want, we can come back to him after I hear from everybody else.
Just, the plans that were handed out tonight, are they the same as the ones that we got in the package, or was there some modifications on the plan we got tonight?
There's modifications on this. Quickly to point out that overflow that they were concerned with, engineering was concerned with, has been removed from the most westerly structure where it says 6 foot by 11 foot said tank, and that would be on sheet 2. Which shows most of your drainage. That's the only reason I'm pointing that out. So that has been removed as recommended, so that was a correction. The sizing of the width of the street was a correction. Or, I shouldn't say a correction, it was a revision as that was proposed. I believe we did a cross-section on the street, too. Okay, right, all the trees were plotted on there as recommended by the, I think it was Conservation, DPD. Okay. But the trees were plotted as recommended. On the, I believe it's page 3, we did do a cross-section of what the street would look like. That is, looking at it from the side to show the depth and/or width and whatever piping, et cetera, would be in that street. And we use a city standard on the overall layout, which is a 45-foot layout in that area, and throated down to a 20-foot of pavement. VA4 vertical curve, which is your standard in the city of Lowell. The depth of pavement, et cetera, pavement and/or gravel meets city standards. And a bituminous concrete sidewalk on at least 4 feet in, allowing a grass strip in, between the street and the sidewalk. We thought that that'd be the better way to go, mainly because of the safety issue. You're getting into just 20 feet of street, so we put a 4-foot strip in and then the sidewalk. So. But the answer is yes, this is a revised plan.
And the changes or modifications are primarily in response to other comments from, the original comments from the city engineer?
Yes, sir.
Correct? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. I guess I'm sorry. The only other comment I wanted to make that I neglected to say before when I was referring to what my client is going to build here is we think 3 nice houses that will be a nice addition to the neighborhood. It's a quiet area, and certainly intend to make sure we can do everything to do that. And I might also add, finally, that we're estimating another $12,000 to $15,000 a year in tax revenue for the city of Lowell as well out of these new houses. So any other questions we have, or we'll be glad to respond to any of the other.
We were given a letter from a resident up there, Mr. LaGrega, before the meeting, with a list of 8 concerns that he has about the project. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with it or not, Charles, but
His first name is Robert. I'm not sure if that's the Bob that you were
Robert
referring to
LaGrega.
earlier.
And I'm wondering if you have this, and do you plan on addressing those, or what?
I think we did, but may I take a look?
Well, sure, yeah.
I think this is mostly times and extent of construction.
You want me to speak to those?
Well, no, I just, all right, just, will you address this?
We answered those.
Okay, that's all I
He
wanted.
sent back another series of, what he highlighted were what he was looking for, additional responses, and my client made those. I mentioned that before. I'll give you for example, the gentleman was requesting, as you'll see there, that we post signs about speed and traffic and things like that. And our response was that unfortunately, it's neither our prerogative nor even the planning board. Planning board can make recommendations, but it's the city council, as you know, who are the only people who can order signs on public ways in the city. But obviously, to the extent, and that was what we wanted to make it clear, to the extent that we can make sure that there's no high levels of traffic or whatever. Like I said, it's 3 houses. They're going to be built probably at separate times, and there will be very few people around.
Okay, yeah.
Anybody else, on behalf of the applicant, want to speak, counsel, before I turn it over to the public? Does your client want to speak, or is he all set? Okay. Anybody here want to speak in favor of this project?
Mr. Chairman, members of the planning board, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. In my opinion, that this fits the neighborhood character of the area because it is single-family homes. It's not multi-story building of apartments or whatever. So I do believe that this fits that neighborhood character. It isn't as single-family homes. I urge that the board, with whatever conditions you put on it, approve this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone want to speak in opposition? In opposition?
Good evening. My name is David Porter. I live at 76 Dayton Street. I live on the other side of the train tracks where this subdivision is going to be built. I would like to speak in opposition of this proposed subdivision. I am concerned about the rainwater runoff and the direction in which it will travel. The swamp at the end of Dayton Street fills up and causes flooding in my backyard. If the stormwater runoff is allowed to flow off the proposed Berkeley Ave extension and into the ground, I am afraid the water will continue into the culvert under the railroad tracks and create additional water in the swamp. I do not want this to then cause flooding to my house. I spent my life savings to purchase my home and do not want to have it to be flooded due to this subdivision. I would like to know what measures will be taken to prevent flooding to my property and house. I guess just the other question is how the Conservation Commission would impact this and what their recommendations to the subdivision would be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in opposition?
Hi, my name's Craig Lanou. I'm a 17-year resident of Bishop Street. I'm opposed to this the request of Mr. Scaff and Scaff Industries. As the addition of these 3 homes will not add any value to our neighborhood, it will only depreciate the values of our homes on Berkeley and Bishop Street. The clearing of the trees for all the roads that will allow access to the new homes will expose the neighborhood to noise pollution from Interstate 495 and the industries directly behind Berkeley. It will also expose the intrusive billboard that is adjacent to the highway. At night, this billboard is lit like a stadium. In addition to the noise pollution and the giant eyesore, he will be adding more traffic to our neighborhood. I am also concerned because we are mostly owner-occupied neighborhood. Scaff already rents out his first property on Bishop Street, and there are 3 new homes proposed. Are they going to be rental, or are they going to be owner-occupied? If approved by the board, this project will only depreciate the values of not only my home, but also all the residents of Berkeley and Bishop Street, resulting in lower assessed values of our homes. The city of Lowell is the biggest loser, as they will lose one of their best neighborhoods and the tax revenue it provides. I look at this present proposition as a lose-lose-win proposition. The city of Lowell and its residents will lose, and only Staff Industries will profit. I have some photos of the billboard. You guys would like to see it?
If you would, please, sir, fine.
I could show.
You can bring them up if you like.
Yeah. This is the industry directly behind it. This is the billboard through the trees that stood up at night. This is a picture taken right from Bishop Street. You can see the billboard here. That's what it actually looks like. And it is at night lit up, like I said, like the stadium. These trees are removed. And the property is built. It will only decrease the values of our neighborhood. And as a lifelong resident there, I have invested a lot of money into my home, and I don't want to lose that money. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Council, have you had a chance to see these pictures? Okay. Once the board's done with them, I'll pass them your way if you don't mind. Give us a chance to digest them.
Sure. A couple of comments, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
First of all, with regard to increased traffic, we're talking about 3 houses on a dead-end street. I'm no traffic engineer, but I can't imagine that we're going to generate more than an additional 5 or 6 or 8 trips a day of cars up and down the street as a result of 3 cars on 3 houses on a dead-end street. As far as the houses go, rentals, my client has no intent to rent these houses. He's building them to sell, and they're single-family. They'll be occupied by single-family people. I have no idea. I mean, I've lived in Belvedere my whole life as well. I have no idea how this sign, this billboard, which is right adjacent to the highway, has any different effect whether my client, first of all, I don't know how close exactly it is to the site, but I don't believe it's anywhere near as close as this picture would portray. And secondly, it's tall enough that anybody in the city can see it. I can see it from the top of Belvedere Hill, and I don't think it particularly disaffects the value of any of the people who live up there. As far as the value of the houses go, I don't know how 3 brand-new houses are going to negatively affect their values, number one. Number two, as I said, it's increased income for the city through property taxes. And the last thing, by the way, with reference to the gentleman who lives nearby across the tracks, the whole purpose of why the city engineer said she wanted the system to be contained was so that no water would in fact go into Commonwealth Avenue, which is a paper street, and cross the tracks and get into anybody else's house. It would be even beyond the 100-year site. So I can understand these folks' concerns. Nobody likes anything to interfere with the status quo, et cetera, but these are 3 legitimate building lots Just as in other parts of the city can use new income. We're not building a condominium with large numbers of occupants to every one of the units here. We're talking about 3 single-family houses so that other people can have the opportunity to live in a neighborhood as nice as these folks are living in.
We did receive a comment from a traffic engineer from the city who has reviewed the plans, and they just requested a couple of changes, and one of them was to install a dead-end sign at the beginning of the new roadway where has been shown on Street 2. Also, install a stop sign on Bishop Street and Berkeley intersection to reduce confusion over traffic flow pattern. And it also recommended that residential driveways should be perpendicular to the street if possible for easy access and egress. So we did have a traffic engineer look over the plans.
Those have been integrated into the plans, Mr. Chairman.
I'm saying, so those are comments that did we receive?
Correct.
From the traffic engineer?
They're already there, yeah.
Thank you. You can give those pictures back to the gentleman if you'd like, or you can show them if anybody else has comments on them. And at this time, I'll turn over any of the board members have any questions. Mr. Lockhart, let me start with you if you don't mind. Do you have any questions?
I'm all set,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fischett, you mind?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I could, thank you. Just a couple comments to the two individuals that spoke, and I think, Mr. Chairman, you addressed what would be my concern as well at the onset regarding the drainage, and I think that's given the complexity of the site as it relates to drainage, and I think Mr. Porter had legitimate concerns, understanding that you are required under state regulations, but the engineers department has not had an opportunity to comment to us in writing. As the chairman mentioned, it is very rare that we get a recommendation from the engineers department to deny the plan, and that's what we have before us as a written recommendation. And then I must say regarding the screening of the billboard, I appreciate the bringing that to our attention. I certainly would like to actually take a look at that, and I know we're doing what we can to save as many trees as we can on the site, but I'd be curious as to what's being proposed and how it would affect what's there. I can appreciate that as far as what's currently the existing conditions that provides natural screening, and then how may that be affected, because certainly as that neighborhood, we talk about neighborhood character, if that is screened and the neighborhood does not have to look at that basically industrial-looking sign, and certainly the effects of this would expose that. I think it would be incumbent upon everybody to try to maintain that the coverage that's there. So with that, I certainly, we just received these revised plans this evening. I certainly want to have a chance to take a good look at this. I want to visit the site again as it relates to the billboard. I think that's a legitimate concern. And as well as the comments from the engineers department, obviously. And I just have a question for Aaron. Aaron, have we received anything from the fire department regarding the cul-de-sac, the roadway? I don't recall seeing anything.
No, I don't believe we've received anything from the fire department as of yet.
Okay, so I really would like to get comments from the fire department as well on this.
I think they signed off.
I'm looking through them right now just to make sure.
Unfortunately, the timing of the way everything has come through to us has really not given us the opportunity to really review this.
Not my fault, Mr. Fischett.
I don't have it on the record. I'll follow up with the fire department, the fire safety tomorrow, but I don't have it on the record.
Okay. All right, that's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, I'd be in favor of continuing this hearing based on everything I've just mentioned. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fischett. Mr. Gentleman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to say I think you were here for a preliminary hearing a few weeks ago and implemented some of the comments we raised at that hearing, so I appreciate that, particularly the granite curbs and the sidewalks. I think that makes the site a lot nicer. There are some legitimate concerns that were brought up, particularly the drainage, right? That is, to me, that's the main concern we have here, is how are we going to handle this drainage issue? It's obviously an issue based on the comments by the city engineer. I know that you have this plan for underground retention system or something like that that would have to be maintained by a homeowners association. So that all is, there's a lot of concern there about that. And
Well, it's a legal document that goes on record with the deed, together with a plan that's referred to and already been drawn up and circulated. I can make that available to the board as well. Very legitimate and very normal process for this kind of, usually for a bigger development, but we're doing it just for the 3 houses as
Right.
well.
So explain to me then, the city engineer makes it clear that the city of Lowell would not be responsible for maintenance of this system.
That's
So
right.
if it fails, something goes wrong, and Mr. Porter's house is being flooded, what happens?
The 3 people who own their homes are at risk. They're, in other words, that's why I said it's on the deed. They're required by the covenants of the homeowners trust to comply, and if they don't, they'd be subject to legal action.
Okay. So we need to have that reviewed, right? I mean, we need to see, I think it's important for us to understand the engineering comments on that and how all that would work.
Sure. I mean, I'm not sure that the board generally gets involved with reviewing homeowners trusts, but
No.
I mean, to the extent that I think we've submitted it to the city for their approval already, and my understanding is that it has been reviewed, and I'm not sure that I can say for certain that the city engineer has seen the final stormwater management plan, but it was adjusted for her recommendations.
Right. No, and I don't think we should get involved with the homeowners agreement, what that looks like, but I want to have confidence from the city engineer that a system like this is going to work,
Of course,
and that there is some recourse for residents if there's an issue.
absolutely.
And the screening is another issue that I think needs to be addressed or at least looked at. That is a concern, and would definitely impact the rest of the neighborhood if we lose all those trees that are currently doing the screening.
Well, I did want to make another comment on that, because if you did see those pictures, I don't know that there's a tree in the world that's going to screen the height of that particular sign there, which is an extraordinarily high sign. That's kind of the point out. But obviously, I think it's appropriate that you guys take a look at it and see it.
Right. Okay, I had a couple other questions. Mr. LaGrega raises some issues specifically around hours of operation of construction. I think that's legitimate to, for you guys to constrain the construction time, reasonable times, so that you're not there at 6 in the morning, with big trucks digging up and disturbing the neighborhood.
My understanding is that, I don't think the city is, what time do they start, George? I think by code, it's 7. I mean, would you agree to a condition that they don't start till after 8 o'clock, George?
You have to come to the microphone, please, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, George Scaff, 503 Fletcher Street, Lowell. The road construction, for a small road like that, wouldn't be more than a week, barely a week. And they generally start 7-ish, and if they're, depending on the time of the year, if it's hot, they're done by 2 or 3, just to get away from the heat. But
So it should be relatively easy for you to constrain
for the
that, so
road,
that's
yes.
not a impact on the rest of the neighborhood.
No, it shouldn't be, but of course there'll be trucks back and forth, but nothing to, it's just, it's not that big of a road. It's only 300 plus feet.
I understand. Okay, and a couple of other comments that came up in some of the city departments was a good point, I think, about parking. It looks like the driveways that you supplied will allow for a single car off-street parking, and I think the code requires parking for 2 vehicles for a single-family house.
That was also revised in the plan you have.
Okay.
And the angle, I believe, was a little, they wanted something with the angle corrected.
Or perpendicular.
Yes,
Okay.
that was corrected as well.
Okay, so these driveways in the new plan will allow for 2 cars?
Right.
Okay.
We tried to do our homework.
You're doing a good job so far. Another thing we discussed at the last meeting was some type of a barrier, because we got the train tracks there, right? And you had talked about potentially some type of a fence or a barrier there to try to mitigate sound.
We didn't do our homework that well.
On the last house, he was going to
Yes.
put one up there, yes.
Okay,
Probably a natural barrier of some sort.
okay. Because I think that's important. That train is pretty loud, and
Right.
we want these houses to be desirable to
Yeah.
people, so that as the neighbors
Marketing
point out.
involved as well. If it's on the train track, it won't be marketable as well, so. you-
Right, right. If we want it to be a desirable house that people are gonna wanna live in and take care of, you need to make sure it's one that's livable, right? Okay, I think the other things are okay, you've already addressed, but I would definitely, I do think, I wish these lots were 10,000 square feet, but I realize the zoning code allows 7,000 square feet. But I do think that the houses that you're choosing are appropriately sized. You're not trying to jam a McMansion in there.
No.
I think, and that's important, so that's a good thing. But I would support a continuance so that we can take a closer look at some of these issues around screening and stormwater, so forth.
Agreeable to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Claremont?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of points. I think it's been, as previously stated, the water issue is the paramount problem. The city engineer is very aware of it and gave us a strongly worded memo as things that had to be done. It sounds like you're working in the right direction to get those problems straightened out. In addition to what the city engineer is going to do and what we will ultimately review, this will also go to conservation because of its proximity to the flood zone. They'll have something to say about the water issues too, and you'll need to follow whatever recommendations they have for their approval. So just a little, to make the neighbors feel a little bit better that there won't be any aggravation of the water problems that exist there now. Everything will be done properly to contain the water on that site. I am interested in what the plan is as far as the paper street is concerned. I know you mentioned a little bit about that, but you don't have a definitive plan as to whether you're going to request a abandonment of that street.
Well, I actually have already requested, and I've sent to the Assistant City Solicitor Fenton a layout of what is anticipated and asking what may be required. So that's in the works at this point now. And we'll do if it's required to get a sign-off from the city council, we'll do that. But as I said, I've spoken to some people in the title business who look at that and say that under the current conditions and circumstances, it's not necessary. But obviously, as you know, a title company ultimately will also make a decision on whether or not they want to approve
You'd be
it.
concerned about the rights of abutters stepping in at some point,
Right.
without that discontinuance. I have no other questions. I certainly would support a motion to continue this, so that we can get the.
In a second, Mike, wait till he finishes up, we'll get there. Hold on.
I was just going to say, I'd certainly support a motion to continue this to get all the information before the city engineer and back to us with their recommendations.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I would just wonder how that would go, that he would be able to have the city abandon Berkeley Ave, because I went through it and the city told me no. So I was just curious as to how that would work when I was told that I asked the city to abandon Berkeley Ave so that I could clean it up, get some axles and tires that were on my side of the property, and I was told by the city that I could not do that.
Well, that's what we're gonna
Thank you.
hear back from council from, see which way he's gonna proceed on that. I only have a few matters to follow up on. First of all, excuse me, in regards to the homeowners association trust, what we usually do here in the planning board is we refer that to our law department. We have them review it over. We have two lawyers on this board, but we let our law department make that consideration for us because they're the ones who are binding for the city and not us. So therefore, we don't let the city engineer look at the legal documents, and we don't have the law department look at the engineered documents. So we have individual departments who will look at those, and what we usually do is ask the law department to look at any legal document, and therefore we'd have them take a look at the homeowners association trust. And if they have any concerns or matters that should be brought to our attention, we'd ask that they report back to us. A lot of times we'll do that either in-house by myself as the chair asking one of the associate planners, or it comes from the planning department here. In regards to the water issues, obviously, it would have to be set up that the city engineer would have to approve, which was a concern I know that Mr. Porter had, and also the fact that the conservation would have to approve it as well. So if this board approved it and conservation denied it, then it wouldn't go through. It would need approvals by both of the boards. Obviously, I know it's not satisfactory to an abutter saying, well, if the association falls apart, it floods my land, I have to go sue somebody. Because we all know how long that takes, how uncomfortable it is, and what remedies you get back, and how you're put to be whole for a situation that you hope would never happen to begin with. So to have that as an answer for anybody who's a neighbor abutting a project, it's not a comfortable remedy, believe me. Everybody who's had water problems know that when that water comes in, you say, well, I can get recourse down the road when and if, and maybe so. So a couple of the matters would, I would go to those situations. And basically getting back was what happened was when this project first came in, they have a right to come in what we call a pre-application stage. When they come in at the pre-application stage, we render no decision. They ask us what our concerns are. And a couple of concerns that come up, mostly by Mr. Gemman and myself, was we wanted the granite curbing in there and we wanted sidewalk. And the applicant said, there's no granite curbing and there's no sidewalk anywhere in that neighborhood. You know what? He's right. I went down there, I looked at all those streets. I can't find a sidewalk until I get to Boylston Street. All over that area. We also said we want granite curbing. The city engineer recommended for plowing. You come all the way down Berkeley Street to the extension, there's no granite curbing anywhere. They asked if we consider waiving those matters. We said, we like them, the city engineer likes them. And for the reasons is, it does slow down the traffic. They did come back tonight, I give them credit. They put in the curbing, granite curbing, which is safer when people are plowing. It disrupts the road as well. And also the sidewalk is definitely a safe issue when people know if they have the right to walk on the sidewalk. So I give them credit for coming back. I know we've mentioned that they come in on pre-application, so I want to bring that out to the people who are present tonight, knowing that this discussion did come to us, and those were a couple of recommendations we made, as well as we talked about the railroad tracks in the back. I know anybody who lives in that area, you can hear the train at night. Even where I live, on the other side of Andover Street, I can still hear that train at night, about midnight when it comes through. I'm sure anybody who lives there hears it a lot louder than I do. So that was one of the concerns that we had. So I think the traffic issue for 3 houses would be minimal. Our traffic engineer looked at it, and his only concerns was the signing, making sure it has the right parking spaces. But one question I was going to get to with the operations is, if you open the street up to begin with, are they going to, maybe Mr. Scaff can answer these, you're going to build one house at a time? Could you come to the microphone then? So once the street's open, or you come in, you'd be able to put all your construction vehicles at the end of the
They'll be
street.
all inside, off the, right, exactly.
So
And
they wouldn't have to be up here in the neighborhood.
they won't be, not at all, because once the road is cut in.
That's what
they
I'm saying.
just-
And you start the road
No.
before you start
Right,
building any of
and-
the houses.
Exactly,
Okay. And
exactly.
the main thing would be you'd start with the road.
Yep.
And then if you did lot 2 first,
Right,
you'd have this other room to put your vehicles on.
Exactly.
And that proposes, you can leave your vehicles down there and
yes.
go
And
accordingly.
I simply can't afford to build all 3 of them at once.
Okay.
So,
So I mean, it would be a procedure one at a time.
exactly.
So therefore, it'd be less vehicles coming in to do one house than if you're doing 3 at a time.
And they'll be all off the current streets that are there right now,
So that would take all the traffic off these and put them into the end of this
into the lot,
cul-de-sac.
into the new road.
And see, actually, when you have that road built with the curbing and everything else, you'd have less chance of destruction of the road with the road being built up as requested by the city engineer. So
Right.
that way you'd have plenty of room to put your vehicles down the end of the cul-de-sac. Okay. So those are the basic comments I have. I believe, again, the main issues everybody said will be the water. Therefore, as I entertained at the beginning of the meeting, if we could continue the matter to get the final report back from the city engineer in regards to any recommendations they have in regards to how the water runoff is going to be. If it's not satisfactory to the city engineer, then I imagine we're going to get a negative reply. And if we have a negative reply, I think it has a lot to do with what the board's going to do on this action on this matter. It's a strong recommendation from the engineer. As indicated, when we got the one in November, the recommendation was denial. And so since they've sat down and worked with them, hopefully, if the applicants can proceed, they're going to have to satisfy those merits as well as the ones on the conservation. So if we do continue tonight, we'll set it for another date in the distant future, the next meeting or the meeting thereafter, make sure everybody has enough time to look over all the documents, answer all the questions, and The people who spoke tonight, they don't have to speak again. We have all this down in our minutes, and we know what those concerns are. Anybody else who wants to come down and speak, I'm sure I'd be more than happy to entertain any more communication from the neighbors in favor or against. Saying that, any board members have any further comments? If
Just
not,
one other
okay.
point, Mr. Chairman, you had mentioned the homeowners trust and the rights of the neighbors if they ran into any water problems in the future. I'd also point out that once this trust is in effect, the city has enforcement rights. If there were ever any issues, they could step in, make any repairs or corrections, and charge it to the lot owners. So they have rights under this as well. So if anything ever failed, the city could step in, make the necessary repairs and corrections, and charge it to the lot owners and put a lien on the properties if there was a problem. So there's some enforcement rights there as well.
Saying that, may we entertain a motion maybe to continue?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to continue the public hearing until the next scheduled planning board meeting.
Okay, I do have a couple questions. I believe we might be short a member at the next meeting, which would be, our next meeting is scheduled for January 20th. So to make sure that, I think we have one member who cannot make it that night that we're aware of as of today. So I'd be willing to maybe if we can continue to February 7th. That'd give us approximately a month time, and hopefully that'd give everybody plenty of time. Instead of coming back in 2 weeks, and if they need additional time, this way I think would satisfy everybody for the 1 month period. So if the board would be willing to consider maybe the February 7th date?
Sure, that's,
You want to put that in the form of the motion, Mr.
yep.
Fischett?
That's fine.
If we could continue the public hearing then to the February 7th planning board meeting.
Need a
Second
motion
that, Mr.
made?
Chairman.
I'll second the motion.
Second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the matter will be continued to that evening for further public hearing. And I thank everybody for coming down tonight for their input. I appreciate your input. Thank you.
Thank you very
Good luck,
much.
Counselor. Okay, moving along on the agenda, we have nothing further new business. We have under other business, excuse me. We have notices from the Zoning Board of Appeals. These matters will be public hearings that will be held on January 10th, 2011, here at the City Hall Council Chambers before the Zoning Board of Appeals. The first matter is for a special permit, and it's for a sign. The applicant is 1001 Pawtucket LLC, and the property is located at 1001 Pawtucket Boulevard. And this is to install an internally illuminated wall sign, one freestanding sign for Cobham, the current tenant in the building. The proposal includes refacing the existing freestanding sign and replacing the existing wall sign, which is externally illuminated with a new sign. We want to refer this to our design planner, as we've been doing basically for signs. Any board members have any comments? There are pictures of the signs in the application.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we refer this to the design planner for recommendation.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, the matter is approved. The next matter is for a special permit and variance for telecommunications. The applicant is T-Mobile Northeast LLC. The property is located at 1221 Westford Street. And this is petition for special permit and variance to install an additional equipment upon an existing cell tower, increasing the height by 10 feet. The proposal is designed to fill gaps in the current cell phone coverage for the applicant's client base. So the pictures show that it's an current tower, and they want to make the tower an additional 10 feet. There's pictures here, which is located out on 1221 Westford Street. Looks like the picture's shown here right behind Trinity Company. They have what's present, existing use, and then what the addition would look like. So it looks like they're going up to 10 feet with a couple more. I'm not exactly sure how they phrase those on the tower. I know certain names to them.
We generally refer these out to the people that like to deal with them, but I think in this case, that thing is already up and they're just extending it 10 feet. I don't think I'd necessarily have an issue with that.
Any board members have any comments on the extension of it?
It's kind of it's not an extremely attractive cell tower.
No,
It's standing right out in the middle there, unobscured. I don't really like the idea of increasing the height of a cell tower, a freestanding cell tower like that.
I don't either. It's ugly to begin with, and what's the limit? I mean, you go up 10 feet
Aaron, do you know
this month, and in 3 months, they could come back and ask for another 10 feet. I mean, is there a rule relative to that?
Aaron, do you know if there's any certain height requirement on these, by any chance?
It's gotta be
I
something.
believe it off the top of my head that it has to do with the setback from the parcel boundary.
Oh, yeah. How many feet back, how many feet up?
Yeah, it's supposed to be equal to the height. So I haven't looked at this very closely, so I don't know where it's located on the site, but that's, if they're requesting a variance, it's probably for that, then it's not.
Mr. Chairman, in the paperwork we received, according to this, the required height is 199 feet, provided 90 feet, so relief sought is none.
So it meets the requirement.
Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah.
So it just falls in for the variance because of the cell tower itself?
Well, I think,
Probably everyone needs to go get this type of relief. I don't think any of them can go up as of right. They all need to go before the ZBA, do they?
Yeah,
not?
they need anything needs a special
Yeah.
permit, but I'm not exactly
Can't
sure
go
what the
up that
variance
one
request is
after
for, to
the
be honest with you. But you're right, any kind of
Because on the application it
co-location.
says special permit and variance.
Right, and I think they're going up so that they can provide for co-location for another company, which is, what we prefer if we possibly can. I agree, it's not the best-looking thing, but it's already there. So,
I know we encourage
rather than
that,
putting
yeah.
up another one somewhere else, I think that this is the preference, so.
I know we encourage you to put it on the same pole instead of doing no one, but.
it looks like the
200 feet, if 199 feet's the rule, then, they can go.
Looks like the relief that they're requesting is regarding the minimum front yard, I think. The required is 40 feet, and the provided is 31.
That's correct.
Required 40.
And it's not
Which-
a
which-
height variance they're asking for, it's actually. looks
which
like
is
it's a yard
basically an existing condition,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah, and it's
So since
there,
they're going
so-
up, they have to
Yeah.
request it.
I mean, I agree with the comments, it certainly is not the most attractive thing, but I think probably in the zone it's being located, and it is a co-location, I have to agree, I think that rather than having them seek a new site, and
Keep it.
we prefer to encourage co-locations, I certainly would be willing to go along with it. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a recommendation, to recommend approval of the co-location.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Moving along, the next matter is a special permit for a sign. This is the Dunkin' Donuts at 443 Chelmsford Street to replace an existing internally illuminated sign with new internally illuminated sign. Square footage will be reduced from 72 to 69 feet. The applicant is looking to revamp the signage at the site in order to match the current logos the business uses in its marketing products. We want to refer this to our sign planner as well?
Yes, I'll make a motion to refer this to the design planner.
I'll second that, Mr.
Motion made
Chairman.
and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, any opposition? Hearing none. The next matter we have is Gretchen McCarthy at 91 Long Meadow Drive to subdivide and construct a new single-family home on an undersized lot. The proposal will require variances for minimum lot area and lot area per dwelling unit. The dimensional standards in the suburban single-family zone requires 10,000 square feet for minimum lot size and lot area per dwelling. The proposal provides for 7,989 square feet.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be recusing myself on this issue.
My thoughts on this are, if that lot had been standing alone, you might consider the relief requested, but it looks like they're subdividing the lot to create that second lot, and they're, by doing that, creating the hardship, so I don't think that necessarily flies legally. So I'd make a motion to recommend denial.
I would second that motion. I agree. I mean, it's the 10,000 square foot neighborhood. Yeah,
7,000.
I mean, you're gonna go in at less than 8,000, so you basically less than 20% of the lot requirement to put in, so I'd go along with the denial as well. So motion is made, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So we recommend denial, and we have one abstain. Next one we have is a special permit, and this is Corbett Development, Inc. on 127 Humphrey Street. This is a petition to demolish an existing single-family and construct a new single-family in its footprint pursuant to the zoning code. The proposal requires a special permit to reconstruct a non-conforming structure after demolition. The new single-family home will be on 5,000 square foot lot with approximately 50 feet of frontage located in traditional single-family zone. Now, the question I have on this is,
Mr. Chairman, I'll be recusing myself on this issue.
I will be as well, so it's up to you guys.
Okay, I got something to say about this. Aaron, do we have any background information on this piece of property?
I have a little bit. This property, as it is now, is on the troubled and abandoned properties list for the city of Lowell. It was actually in the queue for demolition. The city's asset management has that as one of the priority properties, or higher up on that list. However, we've kind of run out of funds for demolition under that program. And so this property, the developer that's proposing this project has stepped in and said that they would demolish the building and then rebuild it on the footprint of the existing site. The comments that initial comments in the DPD that we're working on for the ZBA is that, one, they also should be, per the zoning code, staying within the third dimension of the building footprint, so also height, not just the footprint on the ground, but as the height. Other than that, the rendering of the project is pretty well done. One of the other comments that we want to make sure that we're working with the ZBA on is that the developer understands that the elevation that's submitted with their application is what should be built. There's a good amount of architectural variation on that. We just want to make sure that it gets translated to the final product. That's about it.
so I understand that they're gonna raise the existing, and then, do you see the plan, Aaron, to the right? It has 25, and it has a 21, it says proposed. It looks like that's a block. I don't totally follow what that is. Do you have a copy of the plan as well? You see them?
Right here.
I mean, this piece here.
I think that's the dimension from the building to the setback.
Oh, okay.
20, just 21
Okay, I got you,
feet.
okay. Oh, yeah, because I looked at it first.
Actually, what's there is there's a driveway.
Oh, okay,
It's,
and that's just a proposed land, okay.
that's just the, right now, there's a driveway there. And I gotta tell you that I went by here twice because it really bothered me. This house is boarded up. It's an eyesore, it's a safety hazard. On the left, as we look at this plan, I would guess, just driving by on the road, it's like 8 feet away from this number 131 Humphrey Street. It's really a hazardous situation, and there's gotta be kids in the neighborhood, and, I'm really in favor of getting this thing torn down.
The only question I'd have, if they tore it down, is there any ways they could push it further to the right so you don't have 3 feet to the side yard? I mean, or does it have to be built exactly where the other is? I mean, I think if he has 21 feet on one side, and he only has 3 on the left side.
Yeah, practically they could, it would require additional relief from the zoning board of appeals. There's the special permit criteria for rebuilding after demolition, non-conforming structures that you build precisely where it was, to no greater size, or smaller at least. So if it was to be moved 3 feet over, that would require
I mean, because you have to look at it when you have
additional relief.
21 feet on the right side, 3 on the left
Three
side.
on the left doesn't
Might
make
be able to
much
push it over so the person at number 131 is, you said, Rich, isn't, reaching out the window and shaking
That's
hands.
about 8 feet away.
Yeah, it just says 3 feet from the property line, so it might be 8 from the house.
Yeah, right.
Definitely worth considering. I mean, it's
How's
a
that?
little
About
additional
8 feet.
paperwork up front, but the end product would possibly be better.
The main thing is to tear down just a piece that's pretty deplorable.
Oh,
Yes.
it's bad.
Bad shape.
Yeah. In a very nice little neighborhood, it just doesn't belong there.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just, I agree. I think that, we have a bad situation here with this house, and, if we're going to reconstruct it in exactly the same footprint with exactly the same dimensions, it can only be a better situation than what we currently have. It would be nice if we could center it a little more to make it,
That's what I was looking at.
make it a little more.
Push it in the middle, make it a little more conforming.
But even without that, if we were just going to construct it right on the same footprint, I think it's only an improvement. I have one question, though. Looking at the dimensional requirements here, it says, and required, existing, and proposed. If it's going to be in the same footprint, on the minimum side yard, the existing is 3 feet, some 28, but the proposed is 3 feet, some 24. So what happened to the other 4 feet?
I think that is the proposed deck.
Okay.
You
I
see where the
see.
21
Yes,
goes from
yes.
25 to start to
Okay.
21?
I see.
That's the only thing I tried to figure
Yeah,
out.
yeah, that must be it.
So it must be those 4 feet there.
They're going to put a deck on the side, which
Yeah.
reduces that by 4 feet. Okay.
That's the only thing, because when I looked at it, I said, where's it pick up the, looked at the required chart. I saw that difference there, so I mean,
Chairman, I'd make a motion that we recommend approval of this project.
I'll second the motion. I'd be
Motion made,
interested if this corporate development might not be opposed to looking at bringing this house further to the center of the lot. Would they still be interested in doing this?
Hammond thinks they need more variances, right? If they said it, you think it triggers more variances?
It requires additional relief just because the special permit criteria states that it needs to be on the footprint of the existing building. But I mean, the practical outcome, if it's an improvement, it's something that the zoning board could approve. It just adds additional relief to the
I mean, I'd
process.
rather see it torn down and built in the same spot.
Okay.
So we get a,
I'll make a motion.
no, I think the motion was already made by Mr.
Oh.
Chairman, second by yourself.
Yeah.
And all in favor say aye. Chair votes yes, and we have 2 abstaining. So the recommendation is 3 in favor, none against, and 2 abstain. So moving along, next matter we have is a special permit and a variance. This is Kevin Fernandez at 767 Central Street. Petition to convert a single-family dwelling unit into a 2-family of the zoning code, section 5 and 12. The conversion of a single-family to a 2-family in traditional mixed-use zone requires a special permit from the Board of Appeals. This proposal will also require variances for the required lot area per dwelling unit. 2,500 square feet is required, and they're proposing 1877, and frontage at 65 feet required, and 55 feet proposed requirements.
I think this is a tough one because, even though it used to be a 2-family, it's converted to a single-family, now to convert it back, they need 6 variances, because they don't need anything.
6 variances?
It's less than a foot from the sidelines and the rear line.
Awfully congested there. Yeah, it's terribly congested.
And I guess I'm a little confused with the required height. Required 45, provided 26, and variance. Relief needed. I'm not quite sure what that,
I like, consistent with existing setbacks on the block. Rear yard, 0.2 feet. Side yard, 0.2. So, all the name of the neighborhood. And do you know, what the height max is, where it says required is 45 and provided is 26? They go up 45, I take it? I mean, he has asterisks next to him, so.
You know what's required of the zoning code in that district, is it, what you're asking?
Jerry had a question about the height, Jerry?
it's indicating that provided height is 26, required is 45, and then when you look at determining what variances are needed, it's listing as a variance needed.
Why are they seeking that relief?
Unless that's
Yeah, you wouldn't think it would be required to be 45. I mean, like,
unless that they just misinterpreted what that, in other words, they assumed you needed to achieve a height of 45, and if you didn't reach it, you needed a variance, but it looks like that's,
Mr. Chairman, this just doesn't seem like a good idea to me. It's a very congested area. They missed the required area by almost half. The land area per dwelling unit they miss, the frontage they miss, the side yard, rear yard, everything is just missed by large dimensions. I would recommend, make a motion that we recommend denial of this request.
Second.
motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes on denial. So that motion recommended denial?
Just to cycle back, Jerry, looking through this, all I can tell is that it was misunderstood what the height
Misunderstood.
requirements.
yeah,
They thought they needed to get to 45 feet. They absolutely do not.
they don't have, okay. I suspect that'll be cleared up at the ZBA
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron.
That completes our ZBA notices. We did receive some matters in our packet, notices from abutting towns. Any comments on those? If not, we can place those on file.
Make a motion to replace the notices from abutting towns on file.
Motion is made and second, all in favor, say aye. Chair votes yes. General correspondences. Aaron, I'll start with you. Anything from planning and development? I know we had the handout this evening. Everybody signed those, give them back to you?
Yeah, if for the handout that the sexual harassment policy, if you could just sign that those were,
Or you wanna do it
That's what that's
distributed,
submitted to all
so-
city employees?
yep, or volunteers. The other thing I did want to point out, we did receive a definitive subdivision application for Bigelow Street. This is 61 Bigelow off of, or Swan. It's that landlocked parcel off of Industrial Drive. I think they came in for a pre-application about 6
Well,
weeks.
that was, the city council denied them
Bigelow Street.
The zone change. Zone
change, right?
Yeah, originally, the parcel is currently in the, well, part of it is within the high-rise commercial, part of it is in the traditional single-family. They had originally sought a zone change for the landlocked parcel to be changed to traditional single-family. It was denied, so now the subdivision is just for 2 additional residential
in the
units,
residential
single-family.
portion,
Yep,
yeah.
So they're looking for subdivision for 2 homes?
correct.
So do we know when that coming in?
The 20th, it should be in for the 20th. We just need to clear up some notification issues. Because it's so close to Chelmsford line, they also need to provide notice to residents in Chelmsford within 300 feet of the project site.
And if they don't meet that deadline, we'll put it in the following meeting?
Yep.
They don't have those notices on time?
They'll need to, yeah. We just need to clarify that.
Okay, yeah, so if they don't have those, just tell them we'll put it on for the next meeting for them if they don't meet those deadlines. Any of the board members have any reports from any of the various boards that people sit on? Hearing none, nothing further. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion made, all in favor, second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. We have adjourned. Good night, and thank you, everyone.
Actually, I think we